Hold on tight for the next hour. You're entering into a place, a zone called the alternative to the alternative media. It's a place, a special place where even truth seekers fear to tread.
All right, people, let's move like we've got a purpose.
Affirmative.
Okay, boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Investigative Journal. Greg Anthony here. Welcome back to the things you've always wanted to hear again. Welcome back to that show you've never miss again. What the hell was that? I think that was, remember Welcome Back, Kotter? Well, you know where I heard that song? Today, opening day in Wrigley Field. April 8th is the big day for me. Yes, because the Cubs won 10-0, and I will not let anybody destroy that day. Yes, let me tell you something. I couldn't do my show yesterday because I was at the border and I could not get an internet connection. I think the Trump administration or the Obama administration want to keep us from talking. Or is it the Jesuit administration? That's what I call it. Trump, Obama, I call it the Jesuit administration of America. They're the ones in control. Let's face it. We have been buffaloed, skewed, and almost put to rest by these diabolical Jesuits who never want their name even in the news. They don't want it. Why not? I think because they're a humble bunch of gents who want to go out thinking that they are representing Jesus Christ. So here I am on the border. Right now, let me tell you exactly where I'm at. I'm sitting in a restaurant in Tijuana. Yes, sitting in a restaurant in Tijuana. They've given me a little nice area. I said I have to do a radio show in English, and I've got a few tacos in front of me and everything. And they're letting me do the show, and we got a nice little quiet area. And you know what? I think this whole idea of the border is a bunch of bullshit. And let me give you the reason first. And I talked to my Spanish friends here, and they agree with me. And I speak a little bit of Spanish. I speak a little Italian, a little French, a little German, a little Swiss, but not much of anything. You know, I'm kind of a jack of all trades, a master of none. But I understand the human condition, and that is this. In this country here, where I'm at right now, and even if you go into other parts of Mexico, 99% of the people love America, and America loves them. It's the government and the cartels and the money makers that create this mess. And they know it. So here I am sitting in this restaurant, and I've got, you don't believe the way I eat here in Mexico. I love it. A lot of natural stuff. If you close the borders, you're not going to get all that, right? Ha! I'm going to stay here, maybe. Why not? Why not stay in Mexico? It's going to be a one world here anyway. It's going to be who wants to live up in Canada anyway? It's too cold. And who wants to live in North Dakota? Right? So why are all the Mexican people coming up? They don't want to go up there either. Half of them don't have a big jacket to wear. I mean, understand, these people are coming up from a country that they can wear shirt sleeves all year, and they're going to end up in Chicago in the winter. They'll die, Don't go. Stay down south. Hey, I love Mexico. It's better than America to me. Really. I go back and forth all the time. I've lived in San Diego for years, and spent a lot of time crossing the border, and I've never had one single problem. That's because I'm not a drug runner or a cartel agent, you know? And maybe not in the wrong place at the wrong time, and there are some innocents that do get killed by this. But let me explain to you what I'm getting at. As I sit here in Mexico, I realize what the New World Order has planned. They want to flood America with Guatemalans, people from, El Salvador, all those countries there that they're depleting all of their energy and all of their resources so they can take it and then bring them over here to America so they can create socialism. What's going to happen in the future is this. There's going to be a one Canada, a one America, and one Mexico. They're all going to be together. And I am not living in Ontario in the winter. So thank God for that. But will you have the money to go from town to town to town to town, Ontario to New York, back to... No! They want to limit you. They're going to put you in a place and tell you what to do, tell you what you can own, tell you what you can drive, tell you what you can eat. They want to tell you everything. In fact, they want to tell you when you can have a baby, when the baby should be killed, and they can kill the baby now. So what do you got left with these people, these nutcases that are running the world? I mean, it's a complete nutcase world. When you think about it, you got nothing. You got yourself. You got your family. You got your country. What country do you have if you can't trust your government? You don't have any. And there is no government any longer you can trust. And let me explain why. Most of you don't realize who's behind this little game that's going on in the world. It's the Vatican Jesuit New World Order. They have 190 to 200 concordats with the world countries, giving them special privileges, special ideals. They are the richest organization in the world, one cut out to do one thing, create a one world order, a one world religion. For what reason? Because they're all nuts. They have no reason to do it otherwise. Do you think the Vatican, a country that's about the size of a football field with, 800 residents? I don't even know if it's that many. Can control the world? Yes. That's the real interesting thing about this. If Italy had any balls, they'd get them out of Italy, but that was done years ago through Mussolini, right? And nothing has changed. They allow this group to sit there in the middle of Rome, acting as if they're a country, while everybody runs around like with chickens with their heads cut off. And all they're doing is laughing to the bank, killing everybody they can that when they don't get their way. And here in America, we're first starting to get a glimpse of it. Socialism is key on the agenda now, right? Just started in this year. Oh, where did that come from? That came from the Jesuits in the years of 1600s with their Paraguay reductions. And if you don't know anything about it, then you're a bigger fool than me. Because I didn't know it for a long time, but at least I learned it. And man, we're being buffaloed, bamboozled, run over like never before. Because we can't figure out one basic thing. Who is behind the bullshit going on in Washington, D.C.? That's easy, right? Oh no. What's really right is grab a banner. I'm a Republican. Grab a banner. I'm a Democrat. And you know what? You'll end up just like the rest of every person that's ever lived in the world since the Roman Empire. You'll end up dead and not knowing exactly why. That's the real nuts and bolts of the Vatican-led New World Order. And no matter how many times people say it, they can't get it. They can't get the simple facts. On this show, if you go back to everything we have done, the one thing we've always stayed true to was this one fact. The Vatican and the Jesuits have an agenda for this country, and we've outlined it. But do you think anybody's going to cover it? That's why there's no freedom of press. That's why there's no freedom of religion in this country. It's been sold out a long time ago. It was sold out in 1776. And now you got all these righteous people on the left and on the right doing exactly what their Jesuit masters are telling them to do. Play the Hegelian dialectic so that we can then create a synthesis to win. And their synthesis is simple. America will fall in probably 30 to 40 years. It has no choice. This border situation is the key to understanding it. Let's look at it. How come Congress for 30 years hasn't corrected the problems that everybody's complaining about on the right? How come the Republicans who had the House, the Senate, and the presidency for 2 years didn't do a damn thing? Because they work with the Jesuits just like the Democrats. And now how come everybody's going, oh, we're fighting for that? Now we hear Trump going, we're going to close the book, all these things. And then you hear the left going, we're going to open the border. They've got it right where between your, you know what? They got you where they want you. There's no solutions with the Jesuits. They know where we're going. You can play basketball with them at, Gonzaga, Georgetown. You can go to their churches and play their game that they're really close to Jesus Christ. But you cannot deny their past, their history, and what they're doing today if you really research it. And the reason this show has been never, that's terrible English, but who cares at this point? This show has never gotten a mainstream audience is because they can't stand it. They loathe anything that gets close to their truth. And they will do everything to fight against it. Everything. They will not only lie, when you get too popular, they'll kill you. And when that happens, well, they'll go on to the next one that picks up the story. And the sad thing is, in America, no one really studies this because we're so caught up in the TV, so caught up in our little games that we play, the internet. That's the crux here. How do you break this? Okay, what I want to do here is explain to you something really simple. I just did a really quick check. And the Jesuits really are controlling the internet as well. You find so few things that it's almost ridiculous. So let me go back to something here. You cannot defeat these people with evidence of, if I can find evidence of their Paraguay reductions or their connections with Stalin and Hitler. But let's look at the one story they've had a hard time hiding. And maybe you can do your own research, because Fighting these people is like fighting a ghost sometimes. An evil ghost. Here's a pastor who talked about the assassination of Abraham Lincoln that we've talked about here so many times. And so many times the story of connecting the Jesuits has been so-called debunked by the History Channel, Robert Redford, all these people who want to protect these son-of-a-bitches. I don't know why, but I can only imagine it's because of money. Here we go.
It's done with Ian Boyne on his program Religious Hard Talk in November of 2005. The first, which was entitled I'm at Home in the Ghetto, on that one we took a look at our work in the inner city, Kingston's inner city. And on this one we're going to be talking about the role of the Roman Catholic Church in the assassination of President Abraham Lincoln. Now, we're not dealing with all the facts of the assassination, just a brief overview. I felt that we needed to talk about this as we spoke about the role of the Roman Catholic Church in Jamaica, and I felt it was necessary that some of the hidden history come out. And I'm really not ashamed that we did this. It's very controversial, and quite frankly I know it could lead to my death, because these boys don't play clean, they play dirty. But it doesn't matter. What's important to me is that God's truth comes out, and that a context be given for understanding the final invitation in the entire Bible found in Revelation 18. Come out of her, my people. Sit back. I hope the things said will have been said in a manner that encourages you to listen, study for yourself. We'll let Ian take us into the program.
Joining us for Religious Hard Talk. I'm Ian Boyne. For many years, the Roman Catholic Church has been subject to very harsh criticisms from fundamentalist sectarians. There have been a number of groups such as the Jehovah's Witnesses and the Seventh-day Adventists who have really strongly criticized the Roman Catholic Church, identifying it as the Antichrist power and raising the specter of a future persecution of true Christians by Roman Catholics. Today we have with us one of the strongest, most forthright and forceful anti-Catholic spokespersons, David Moore, the founder of the Layman for Religious Liberty. He's a Seventh-day Adventist layman. In the early 1990s, he had a series of meetings in Jamaica which created quite a stir. There were a number of revelations that he made in these seminars about the Roman Catholic Church. Well, today on Religious Hard Talk, we will give him the opportunity to make his charges against the Roman Catholic Church, to make his critique against the Roman Catholic Church. But we have with us the well-known Roman Catholic deacon and defender of the faith, Peter Espute. On Religious Hard Talk, we present all the sides. We give people the opportunity to express their views strongly, but also to have the opportunity to have those views countered. And what we will do today is that we'll have David Mould make an initial 8-minute presentation. He feels he has facts that the Roman Catholic Church was behind the assassination of Abraham Lincoln. He's going to make that case, and we give him the opportunity to do so. Now, gentlemen, good to have you on Religious Hard Talk. David, we start with you. The case last week, you did not flinch when I asked you whether you were suggesting that the Roman Catholic Church was the epitome of evil, and you said vehemently, yes, the Roman Catholic Church is the epitome of evil. Your case.
It's not my case. It's a case that was first made by one of the 9 men that sat on the military tribunal that executed the conspirators in the Lincoln assassination, Brigadier General Thomas Harris. He wrote 2 books on the subject. There have been others written, one by a former Roman Catholic priest, which concurs. But before we get off on that, I feel the need to apologize here. To apologize for taking so long on your program last week to develop the thought that when I speak about Catholicism, I speak about its history, I speak about its dogma or doctrine, and not necessarily about its people or personalities. I do believe that there are genuine Christians in all denominations, including the Roman Catholic Church, people who love humanity, who would give their lives for humanity. However, on the matter of the traditional dogma of the church and its bloody history, that any student who took the time to look at the 1500-year period beginning from Justinian's lifting of the Bishop of Rome to being the head of the church to 1798 when Napoleon took the Pope captive. Anybody who spans that history and looks at the estimated 100 million heretics that...
Okay, let me say this real quickly, and we're going to finish this. And let me say it real succinctly. I hope the good man that was speaking was mentioning not the hierarchy of the church. He just said dogma. Yes, there's many Catholics misled, but they're not Christians. How can you be a Christian led by Satanists? You have to get out of her before you're a Christian. And once you do that, you may not even be a Christian then. This idea of covering, I don't like. Let's get to the facts. We're dealing with the assassination of Lincoln. I don't really care about the Christian idea here. Who did it? Why'd they do it? And let's talk about it, my friend. And don't try to snowcoat it. I'll give him a minute here, then we have to take a break.
Was slain by the Roman Catholic Church has to conclude that there is something fundamentally and diabolically wrong with that institution. When I said it was the epitome of evil, I meant it. I also ought to state that I will not be able to develop all the thoughts on your program, and am prepared to launch our telecast again in Jamaica and begin with the first maybe 7 or 8 programs, if TVJ would have it, to allow me to develop the points that we have thrown out here. Okay? And I ought to say one other point. I never started out. You've defined me as an anti-Catholic. If I'm an anti-Catholic, then so is Paul. So is Jesus, who authored the prophecies in the book of Revelation. You know, I don't see myself that way. I see myself first as a Christian. There are some harsh things in the Word of God, and most of us, I think, tend to are either ignorant of those statements or we shy away from them. And I believe that they need to be dealt with openly. And the church of which I'm a part used to stand firmly on these positions. I think, unfortunately, the Seventh-day Adventist Church has reached a point now where we're so interested in being part of the mainstream and being perceived as not as a cult that we have downplayed this teaching. And by the way, it's not unique to the Seventh-day Adventist Church. As I said to you last week, the church fathers could prove to a man that...
Please, someone tell me. We're going to end this on this thought. Why is it only the Seventh-day Adventists that bring this up when we know the Seventh-day Adventists are now controlled by Rome? Something is up here. I don't know what yet, but we'll find out in the second half hour on the Investigative Journal.
The book of Revelation says, the spirit of prophecy is the testimony of Jesus Christ. This is at the very heart of FirstAmendmentRadio.com. In that spirit, we have created the Prophecy Reality News app for all of your mobile devices, streaming First Amendment Radio 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Available for your Apple, Android device, and smartphone, absolutely free. Get the Prophecy Reality News app installed today so you can listen to First Amendment Radio wherever you are. The Prophecy Reality News app. Get it now.
Visit crosstheborder.org, C-R-O-S-S, crosstheborder.org, to get your print, EPUB, or PDF version of Nicholas Arthur's new book titled When the Third Temple is Built. That's crosstheborder.org. When it comes to prophecy today, much of the evangelical Christian world has their eyes on Israel, waiting and watching to see when the third temple will begin to be built. The plans are drawn. The Jewish people are eager. Most evangelical Christians today believe that the rapture will happen before the third temple is built. Hi, I'm Michael Eugene. I was taught that Daniel's 70th week was in the future. Is that really what the Bible teaches? Have we searched the scriptures and found this to be true? Why is it so important for a re-established Israel to build a third temple in Jerusalem? Is it necessary to build a temple on the same location already occupied by the Dome of the Rock? Is it necessary for sacrifices to take place in the temple on Temple Mount? Is there really a rapture followed by 7 years of tribulation? What is the New Testament temple? Can we identify history and prophecy? Who is the first beast in Revelation chapter 13? Who are the 7 kings in Revelation 17? I have asked all these questions, and I have found Nicholas Arthur's new book, When the Third Temple is Built, answers all these questions and more using Scripture to interpret Scripture. The Bible says that no prophecy of Scripture is of any private interpretation. Nicholas shows us in his new book, When the Third Temple is Built, how the Bible interprets prophecy and not man's private interpretation. Visit crosstheborder.org, C-R-O-S-S, crosstheborder.org, to get your print, EPUB, or PDF version of Nicholas Arthur's new book titled When the Third Temple is Built. That's crosstheborder.org.
The following program is labeled dangerous and off limits by the supreme Jesuit command. But stand tall, people. Listen up, and you may just learn something.
Oh, dear Lord Jesus, this ain't happening, man. This can't be happening, man. This isn't happening.
Okay, guys and gals, get ready. We're going to delve into the assassination of Abraham Lincoln again. How many times have I done that for poor Abe? You know something? The Jesuits of Rome did it. They're hiding behind every smokescreen known to man. And the American people don't give a shit. They go to Abe's little, when they go to Washington, D.C., they go and look at Abe and go, "Oh, it's so sad you were shot by John Wilkes Booth." But they don't realize who the hell did it. And they never will. And no one really cares. Because the American culture is set on a game like this. Every day is a holiday. And you don't care about history. All you're doing is playing games. It started in the 60s, 50s. Well, in the 40s it was a little different. Still, you met people on the street and things. But things changed in the last 60, 70 years? To a point now where America will never recover. Because they don't care about history. They don't care about anything but what is going to be given to them that day. It's kind of like being led by the nose. And so when I play this assassination of Abraham Lincoln by the Jesuits of Rome and these guys from the Seventh-day Adventist Church, I believe somewhere outside of our country. Why are they doing it? Haven't we done it for 20 years? And where does it go? Nowhere. In the mainstream. Let me give you an example. 15 years ago, when I had a man on by the name of C.T. Wilcox, who I believe really delved into this story. We did a number of radio shows. You can go back and check it out. Guess what happened right after that? Oh, the History Channel debunked it. Everyone debunked it. Now, it doesn't matter. There's so much garbage out there. You can't debunk or not debunk anything. It is clustered with stupidity. Jesuit infiltration of your own freedom of speech. They don't want the truth to come out. They won't tell you that they were involved in a lawsuit that we've reported on this show years ago with the Tamaki law firm in Washington State, where they were hooked for $250 million because they admitted that they were involved in genocide of Native American children at their native schools with the complicity of the American government. None of this comes out. People don't know because there is no freedom of speech in our freedom of press in this country. It hasn't been here since Ben Franklin, who was probably working with the Jesuits back then. So this is nothing new. So let me indulge myself and listen to what, again, I ask, why only the Seventh-day Adventists? Is it a Jesuit way of putting one religious group? They allow them to exist, but yet you will get little pockets of Christians who really want to fight this, and they're exterminated. I think the Seventh-day Adventists are working with the Jesuits, but let's listen to these guys anyway, and maybe this guy isn't with them, but he better know it if he works with them, works in the Seventh-day Adventists, right? Let's listen.
The prophecies of Daniel pointed to Roman Catholicism. I have several statements here. I don't think there will be time to even touch on maybe more than one. If I may go to Tertullian in his answer to the Jews, says, Babylon in our own John is a figure of the city Rome, as being equally great and proud of her sway and triumphant over the saints. Victorinus, who wrote in the earliest commentary of the Apocalypse extant, says on Revelation 17, the 7 heads are 7 hills on which the woman sitteth, that is to say, the city of Rome. So you have people 1,500 years before there was a Seventh-day Adventist church. Who made the point that the Bible, an understanding of Daniel 7, Revelation 13 and 17 points clearly, and as I said, I do not have time to develop that here, I will. Now to Lincoln. President Lincoln's assassination, one would first have to go to motive before one goes to the facts. And I think it is clear to say Lincoln's contemporary Pope Pius IX put forth a list of what he called the syllabus of errors and re-emphasized the church's antipathy or hatred for the foundation principles of the United States of America. Freedom of the press was anathema. Freedom of speech was anathema. What you had happening was this upstart country, the United States of America, emerging, admittedly at a time when Rome had received a wound, but emerging, and Rome felt it necessary to condemn the principles, separation of church and state. I mean, I can quote you Pius IX repeatedly, and I will do that in subsequent programs so that people can understand. And indeed, millions of Roman Catholics are members of that church who don't have a clue about the principles that Rome espouses. All right, so the motive, President Lincoln was simply the president of the country which most flew in the face of established dogma or established teaching. If you were to boil it down to its bare essentials, I would say this. Roman Catholicism believes in the union of church and state. The United States Constitution believes in just the opposite. It states Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof. That's the First Amendment to the Constitution of the United States. Rome says join, and not only join, but Rome says we have the authority to use force to compel the conscience. Pius reiterated that in his syllabus of errors. The United States took the position that based on the lessons of history, wherever you have a union of church and state, and by the way, which is why we ought to be very careful about any movement in our country about placing political power in the hands exclusively of Christians. Now, I may not have said that correctly, but if history teaches us any lesson, it is that where the church gains political control, blood inevitably flows. That, unfortunately, is the sad 1500-year history of Roman Catholicism. The facts about President Lincoln are this. Lincoln defended a former Roman Catholic priest by the name of Charles Chiniquy in the 1850s. I mentioned that last week. Chiniquy broke away from the Roman Catholic Church. The Catholic bishop spread a lot of lies about Chiniquy. One of them included rape. And Lincoln defended him. The night before the verdict was read, somebody's conscience bothered them in Chicago. They came to Urbana, Illinois, and confessed that the whole thing had been a scam by the bishop. Lincoln and it's recorded in Chiniquy's book. And by the way, why aren't these books available to us today?
That's the one.
Why can't we read...
Rome's responsibility.
No, this book was written by Brigadier General Thomas Harris, but believe it or not, his bigger work is actually much more thrilling to me. You know, his major work goes into so many things. It is a known fact, if you go to Surratt House today in Maryland, this is the boarding house. The United States government traced the plot to the boarding house of the Surratts. It was a Catholic boarding house. In fact, where's the original wanted poster? Let me show.
When we come back from the break, Rome's responsibility for the assassination of Abraham Lincoln. Did the Roman Catholics kill Abraham Lincoln?
I'll answer that. Without a question, they did. And this show's kind of interesting, isn't it? We've got a lot of people that have no stake in this country like many of our forefathers, right? They're trying to set the record straight for you, the American people. And if you realized that President Lincoln was killed by the Jesuits and the Vatican, that would have a whole different story, wouldn't it? But it wouldn't, because nobody really cares. No. They have you thinking about gender equality, the LGBT community, Jussie Smollett, Trump and the border. Everything that is unimportant to your life takes great importance. But what is really important is when you first sat in your history class, when you were a kid. Maybe what's even more important is when you first sat in your first grade class and looked at that globe and said, "Oh, the world's round." And today I heard the news people are all in Colorado Springs, Colorado, because Trump has now declared that we're going to the moon in 2024, but with an international group. And we're not going there just to set that. We're going to stay there. And then we're going to use all of the moon's resources, which is hydrogen and oxygen, to create fuel for rockets to go to Mars. That's what's going on. And I sat there and I turned the TV off. and I said, does anybody realize that no one ever went to the moon, no one ever will go to the moon? There are no satellites. There are no space like we say, because no one really cares. They're going to believe anything anybody says. And these news broadcasters, the guy that did that, Brett Baer or whatever his name is, ought to be put away for lack of research ability. All these guys ought to be, because they don't question anything. The government says we're going to the moon in 24. Kennedy said we went to the moon, and we never went. But why would Kennedy say that? Because he knew what the world was like. It's flat. You can't get over that little area. Well, why would he do that? And then yet get killed? Well, they got a lot of reasons. He played that game because he felt, well, who cares about the moon, But I'm going to take back Vietnam, and now, hey, the Federal Reserve, the gold standard. So they'll kill you for a whole bunch of reasons. But the one reason that people in this country do not understand is who is behind it all. It's a tough subject, I admit it. But it's pretty simple when you start looking at where we're at today. Go back to the 1600s. Go back to what the Jesuits in the Vatican did in Italy. Go back to what they did in, England. Go back to what they did in France, in the French Revolution. And the history lessons that we learn are really something people can't handle anymore. They don't have the ability. All they want to do is play video games or do if it's 3 years old, it's too old. And they're going to trust their government when their government lies constantly. People still to this day believe two things. That Pearl Harbor was a Japanese invasion that Franklin Delano Roosevelt couldn't have stopped. And they're going to believe that all the Polish Jews in Poland, in Warsaw, were killed because we didn't know what Hitler was doing. Two lies. History will prove that if we had a straight report of history and not a redacted version. Thirdly, you can't ever beat these guys. They're going to win. It's a lie against the truth. And the winner is always the liar that has more money and more power. And that's the sad fact of life. People have no conscience, no justification for life outside of their own false beliefs of where the world should be. And what the elites and the Jesuits have always wanted is a world controlled by fascism and a world controlled by them so that they could keep the riches in Rome and the bullshit stays with them. It's a real sad fact. And they put out all these little things like, oh, I'll go see the statues. I love the Catholic religion. They got a great front, don't they? It's almost as if they got the greatest game going. Lie, steal, cheat, and then get away with it because we are Jesus Christ's representatives on earth, and we can't do anything like that. How do they live with themselves? You know how? They justify it this way. The ends justify the means for a better world. We are nothing but slaves. We are nothing but just useless eaters that serve their purpose. We have no ability, no brains, no sense of anything. We're just animals. Just like they eat a pig, or they'll eat a horse, or they'll eat a cow, they'll eat you. And that's not exaggerating. And these Hollywood types and all these people that want to, get on with their life and all this bullshit that's going on, they have no idea either. The Jesuits could give a shit about you. You're just their useful servant. You lived a little better life. You had a few more riches. But in the end, they'd knock you off just like anybody else. Because they have one goal in mind. Take your satanic worshiping in Hollywood. Take your ideas of all this multiculturalism and shove it up your butt because they don't really care. They're using you. Do you think any of you would have been a Satanist unless you were influenced? Any of you would have done anything to hurt anybody unless you were influenced and given a little money? That's how they operate. It's no fun. Yeah, but you love it, don't you? You're going to be the great superstar. Look what this kid, Jesse Smollett, does that bullshit thing in Chicago, and everybody's now going, well, we don't know what he did. The goddamn kid lied. And he's getting paid $136,000 an episode, and that's not good enough. But he's a political pawn for the Jesuits and this whole idea of ruining this country. And don't you ever forget that. I've never seen anything like it in my life. So we can go back and we can talk about Big Abe getting killed. But you know how many people after Abraham Lincoln have been killed? Do you realize how many people during that Civil War were killed because of the Vatican? Nobody cares. Hell no. No. And you never will. Because you don't want to face the truth. It's that simple. All you're going to do is go on to Fox, you're going to go on to CNN, and play their game until your time is up, and you die, and you don't know what the hell ever happened. Listen, it isn't a matter of money. It's a matter of you knowing what the hell they're doing to your kids, you and your family and everybody that comes after you. And you're never going to get it. I don't even know why I talk about it anymore, because it's really foolish. A foolish man talks about the same foolish things because a fool is one who doesn't realize that the people he's talking to will never listen. And I've been a fool because they will not listen. You will not listen. You will not take the next step to do anything because I've been doing it for 20 years. I know it. And the only thing I ever said in the beginning was this. This story has merit. This story should be put on the table with any other story. This story has some factual background. This story has some possibilities of competing with other stories about what is going on in this world and why things happen. But it can't even get there. That's why there's no freedom of speech, no freedom of religion, no freedom of anything in this country. And it's not new. It was the way it was in 1776. The reason this country was formed. George Washington, all these people were sellouts. Not to the idea of America, but to you, the American people. Because they knew the idea was a good one. One that could basically serve the Vatican in the end. One that would make one thing happen. Them rich, them powerful, them remembered, but yet you forgotten. You, the people of this country, have been buffaloed, lied to, skewed over just like a pig that's been ripped his belly open. And you don't even know it. No. Because you don't care about history. You don't care that the Vatican has done this shit to you. And you never will. So you get what you deserve. And I end this show by saying this. I don't really give a damn. Because you can only do so much to lead a horse to water. But you can't make them, what? Drink. Back tomorrow on the Investigative Journal.
The book of Revelation says, the spirit of prophecy is the testimony of Jesus Christ. This is at the very heart of FirstAmendmentRadio.com. In that spirit, we have created the Prophecy Reality News app for all of your mobile devices, streaming First Amendment Radio 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Available for your Apple, Android device, and smartphone, absolutely free. Get the Prophecy Reality News app installed today so you can listen to First Amendment Radio wherever you are. The Prophecy.
Since the beginning of time, kings have sought it, nations have fought for it. It has been traded, it has been borrowed, it has been purchased, it has been stolen. There's a reason for it. To secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and to our posterity. Invest with the security of gold and silver. Call Discount Gold and Silver Trading at 1-800-375-4188 or visit discountgoldandsilvertrading.net. Listen to Financial Survival with your host Melody Cedarstrom right here on FirstAmendmentRadio.com at 4 p.m. Eastern or 1 p.m. Pacific Time. Visit discountgoldandsilvertrading.net or call Discount Gold and Silver Trading at 1-800-375-4188. Toll free 1-800-375-4188.